What if I told you that the version of yourself you dream of becoming already exists, waiting not in the far-off future, but in the quiet corners of your imagination? What if your future isn't something you chase, but something you embody right now? Imagination is the seed of reality, the unseen force that births every visible form. Before any invention, breakthrough, or transformation appeared in the world, it lived first as an idea, a picture, an inner vision. The mind holds the power to conceive and nurture realities long before the senses confirm them. When you vividly picture a state and embody it with genuine emotion, you are planting a seed in the fertile soil of consciousness. That seed, though invisible, grows silently until it manifests as the circumstances, opportunities, and experiences that shape your life. Think of every great advancement in human history. The airplane was once only a dream in the minds of two brothers who refused to accept the limitation of the ground. The electric light existed only in the imagination of a man who saw illumination where others only knew darkness. These individuals did not simply daydream, they lived in their visions, spoke from them, and felt them as though they were already real. Their imagination was not idle fantasy. It was creation in motion. The reason imagination carries such power is because consciousness precedes experience. What you hold firmly in imagination, infused with feeling, commands the subconscious to reorganize your world. The subconscious mind does not question whether an image is true or false. It simply accepts what you impress upon it with consistency and feeling. When you dwell on limitation, fear, or lack, those two are seeds planted. They grow into circumstances that mirror the inner state. Yet when you dare to imagine abundance, freedom, and joy, and sustain those inner pictures with emotion, you are deliberately shaping the future. Imagination is not something reserved for artists, inventors, or dreamers. It is the daily tool of every human being, whether they use it consciously or unconsciously. Each inner picture is a silent blueprint of tomorrow. The way you see yourself, the way you feel about your possibilities, the quiet mental movies you replay at night. All of these are planting seeds that will blossom in your outer world. Many people dismiss imagination as childish, yet they fail to realize that the so-called reality they cling to was itself born in the imagination of those who came before. To truly harness this principle, you must do more than visualize passively. You must enter into the state, embody it, and let the feeling saturate you. If you imagine wealth but still feel poor, the seed does not take root. If you imagine love but feel unworthy, the soil resists the seed. The key is emotional embodiment, feeling it real now. When your inner world and emotions align with your vision, the subconscious receives the command and begins drawing to you the conditions necessary for fulfillment. Imagination is a law, not a luxury. Just as gravity operates whether you acknowledge it or not, the creative power of imagination is always at work. It is not a question of whether you are using it, but rather how you are using it. If your inner pictures are dominated by worry, self-doubt, and fear, you are unknowingly planting seeds of struggle. But if you deliberately choose to dwell on visions of success, peace, and fulfillment, you align yourself with the life you wish to experience. Children understand this naturally. They play with limitless imagination, inhabiting worlds where anything is possible. Over time, conditioning teaches adults to suppress this creative gift, replacing it with logic and limitation. Yet the truth remains: the world responds not to cold logic, but to vivid imagination sustained by feeling. Logic can only explain what already exists, but imagination is what brings the new into being. The practice, then, is simple yet profound. See yourself as you desire to be, feel it deeply, and persist in that inner vision regardless of outer appearances. The seed you plant today in imagination becomes the harvest you will reap tomorrow. Live, in the end, means to inhabit the reality of your desire as though it were already accomplished. To step into the state of your future self right now instead of postponing it until some external event validates it. Most people live in constant waiting. They wait for success before feeling successful, for love before feeling loved, for abundance before feeling abundant. Yet waiting creates more waiting, because the state of postponement becomes the dominant vibration. The shift comes when you stop anticipating the future and instead claim it as already yours by embodying the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of the person you wish to become. When you live in the end, you are no longer trying to attract something from the outside, you are expressing it from within. The identity you assume now is what determines the experiences you encounter tomorrow. If you continue to think of yourself as lacking, you reinforce the state of lack. If you persist in seeing yourself as already possessing what you desire, the world eventually rearranges itself to reflect that conviction. Life is a mirror, and it reflects not your wishes but your assumptions. To assume the end is to walk, talk, and feel as though you are already living in the reality you long for. Consider an actor who steps into a role. On stage, the actor does not wait for the audience to confirm the character is real. The actor embodies the role so completely that the audience cannot help but believe. Similarly, living in the end is about performing the role of your future self internally until it becomes natural, until it no longer feels like pretending but like truth. The more you occupy that state inwardly, the more you dissolve the gap between who you are now and who you wish to be. It is common to believe that circumstances must first change before feelings can follow, but in truth, the opposite is the law. Feelings come first, circumstances follow. If you desire to be wealthy, you must begin to feel and think as a wealthy person would, even while your current bank account contradicts you. If you desire to be loved, you must first embody the inner state of being cherished, secure, and whole, even if no one outwardly affirms it yet. This is not denial of the present, but alignment with a higher reality that is already potential within you. Living in the end demands persistence, because the outer world often lags behind the inner shift. The mirror takes time to reflect the new image you are holding. If you abandon the state too quickly because nothing appears to be happening, you uproot the seed before it can sprout. To live in the end is to remain faithful to the unseen reality, knowing it is more real than the current circumstance. The more consistent you are in occupying the end, the sooner it solidifies into fact. This practice requires imagination, because imagination is the bridge to the unseen. When you close your eyes and see yourself in the place you desire to be, wearing the identity you long to embody, you are rehearsing the end. The stronger the sensory detail, the more real it feels. When you add emotion to the picture, you infuse it with life. Imagination becomes not a fantasy, but a rehearsal of the inevitable. Living in the end also liberates you from struggle. Instead of trying to manipulate conditions or force results, you rest in the assurance that it is already done. From this state, your actions are no longer desperate attempts to make something happen, but natural expressions flowing from who you already are. You act in harmony with your desire because you identify with it. You stop chasing and start being, and this beingness magnetizes circumstances to you without resistance. To live in the end is to choose conviction over doubt, presence over waiting, and embodiment over longing. It is a radical shift from hoping to knowing, from yearning to being, from one day to now. Inner conversation shapes destiny, because the words you speak to yourself in the silence of your mind are the most powerful forces directing your life. Every human being carries on a constant dialogue with themselves, whether they are conscious of it or not. These quiet whispers, affirmations, doubts, arguments, and reassurances are not meaningless background noise. They are the seeds that eventually bloom into external experiences. The outer world is nothing more than the reflection of the ongoing narrative within. If you wish to know the state of your inner dialogue, simply look at your life, for circumstances will always reveal the tone of your conversations with yourself. Most people underestimate this truth because inner conversations are invisible. They imagine that only actions or spoken words matter, yet every action begins as a thought, and every spoken word has its root in silent speech. If your inner conversation is one of defeat, if you constantly tell yourself that you cannot, that you are not worthy, that opportunities are scarce, then the subconscious mind accepts those impressions as instructions. It does not argue or analyze, it simply reproduces them in the world around you. On the other hand, if your inner conversation is one of strength, confidence, love, and fulfillment, then life echoes those convictions and opportunities unfold accordingly. Think of someone rehearsing an important event. Long before they step into the room, they have already had the conversation with themselves about how it will go. If they imagine being nervous, fumbling, or rejected, they carry that state into the moment, and the outcome often aligns with the rehearsal. If, instead, they imagine calmness, clarity, and success, they enter the moment already having lived it inwardly, and the outer scene conforms to that inner script. Every encounter with others is first rehearsed with yourself. The way you speak silently to your boss, your partner, your friends, or even strangers in your imagination is the way those relationships will unfold. The subconscious does not differentiate between inner and outer conversations. To it, all words are commands, and every emotionalized dialogue is a blueprint. This is why it is vital to pay attention to what you tell yourself when no one is listening. The silent argument you replay in your head with someone who wronged you only reinforces conflict. The imagined complaint about lack only strengthens lack. But the imagined reconciliation, the silent words of gratitude, the inner picture of harmony, these too become facts when persisted in. Changing your life begins with changing your inner speech. If you want to shape a destiny of abundance, then your inner words must align with abundance. Speak to yourself in ways that reflect the reality you wish to see. Tell yourself, even silently, that you are capable, that you are worthy, that life is unfolding in your favor. This is not self-deception but self-creation, for what you consistently affirm inwardly becomes natural to you. And what becomes natural to you is what the world mirrors back. It takes awareness and discipline to transform inner conversations, because they often run on autopilot, echoing old beliefs and past experiences. Yet awareness is the first step to change. When you catch yourself rehearsing fear, doubt, or failure, you have the power to redirect the dialogue. Instead of indulging in thoughts of rejection, you can choose thoughts of acceptance. Instead of repeating old stories of limitation, you can script new stories of freedom and expansion. With practice, these new conversations become automatic, and as they take root, life must conform to them. Destiny is not written in the stars, but in the quiet words you repeat to yourself every day. The inner voice you nurture becomes the outer world you inhabit. To change the course of your life, you do not need to fight circumstances or force outcomes. You need only change the dialogue within, for every silent word carries creative power, and every inner conversation is a step toward the destiny you are writing. Assume the identity means stepping into the role of the person you wish to become, rather than waiting for circumstances to prove it first. The world does not give you what you want, it mirrors who you are. Every desire you hold is not something separate from you, but an invitation to expand into a new version of yourself. To manifest a reality, you must align your self-concept with it, because identity is the foundation from which all experiences flow. If you continue to see yourself as someone struggling, unworthy, or limited, then no matter how much you desire the opposite, your life will continue to echo that inner definition. Desire itself is neutral until it is claimed through identity. Wishing to be wealthy while identifying as someone who is broke keeps wealth at a distance. Hoping for love while continuing to believe you are undeserving of affection makes love seem elusive. Success, abundance, joy, and peace cannot take root in an identity that denies them. The shift happens the moment you stop asking when you will have these things and instead declare, "This is who I am." By assuming the identity of the fulfilled self, you bring the desire into the present and allow it to shape your actions, thoughts, and emotions naturally. Identity is powerful because it dictates behavior without effort. When you see yourself as disciplined, your actions flow from that self-image without forcing discipline. When you see yourself as abundant, decisions arise from a consciousness of plenty rather than scarcity. Identity determines what feels natural, and what feels natural becomes effortless. This is why people who try to change habits without changing identity often struggle. They are acting against their own self-concept, which eventually pulls them back into the old state. But the moment identity changes, habits align automatically. Consider someone who decides to run a marathon. At first, they may struggle if they see themselves as a casual jogger forcing themselves to run. But when they assume the identity of a runner, the behavior shifts. They begin eating, training, and thinking like a runner, not because they are forcing it, but because it feels congruent with who they are. The outer transformation follows the inner declaration. Similarly, if you want to experience wealth, assume the identity of a wealthy person, not merely in possessions, but in mindset, in confidence, in generosity. If you want love, assume the identity of someone already loved, already valuable, already complete. The subconscious mind responds most directly to identity. It does not take commands from scattered desires, but from consistent self-perception. If you continually tell yourself, "I am the kind of person who always struggles," the subconscious aligns with that assumption and ensures circumstances prove it. If you instead persist in the identity of, "I am successful, I am capable, I am favored," the subconscious arranges conditions to validate that claim. Identity is the seed and life is the harvest. Assuming the identity of your desired self requires imagination, for imagination allows you to inhabit a role before the world confirms it. When you visualize yourself as confident, prosperous, or fulfilled, you are rehearsing the identity internally. The more vividly you live in that state in imagination, the more natural it becomes. Soon it stops feeling like pretending and begins feeling like truth. Once it feels true, the outer world inevitably aligns. This practice is not about denial, but about choice. You are always assuming an identity, whether consciously or unconsciously. You can assume the old identity shaped by past disappointments, or you can choose the identity of the self you long to express. Every moment offers the chance to step into that version of you, to think, speak, and feel from that place. The more consistently you inhabit it, the more quickly it crystallizes into reality. Persistence over circumstance is the practice of remaining loyal to your inner vision, regardless of what the outer world currently shows. The truth is that external conditions are not immediate reflections but delayed ones. They lag behind consciousness in the same way a shadow lags behind the body. What you experience today is often the result of thoughts, feelings, and assumptions you held yesterday, last week, or even years ago. Because of this delay, many people abandon their inner vision too soon, mistaking the current appearance as final truth. But persistence requires faithfulness, a steady commitment to the unseen reality until it takes form in the visible world. Imagine planting a seed in the soil. You do not expect it to sprout the very next morning, nor do you dig it up repeatedly to check if it is growing. You water it, protect it, and trust the process even when nothing appears above ground. In the same way, your inner vision is a seed planted in the fertile ground of your consciousness. Circumstances may look unchanged, but beneath the surface, movement is occurring. The invisible is working toward manifestation, but it requires your persistence to sustain it. If you abandon the vision too quickly, it is like uprooting the seed before it has time to bloom. Outer circumstances often contradict the inner vision at first. This is natural because the physical world is still catching up to your shift in consciousness. If you allow appearances to dictate your state, you return to the old identity and undo the work you've begun. Persistence means refusing to let temporary facts override eternal truth. It means looking at what is and declaring inwardly that it is only the past echoing back, not the true reality you have chosen. By holding fast to the inner conviction, you call the future into being and give it time to solidify. Persistence is not about struggle or force. It is about unwavering loyalty to what you have assumed. It is the quiet, consistent returning to your chosen state, even when doubts arise or conditions challenge you. It is easy to feel wealthy when money is flowing, or loved when affection is present, but persistence is proven when the opposite appears. In those moments, you must decide whether to be swayed by appearances or to remain anchored in the unseen truth. The more you persist, the more natural the new state becomes, and once it feels natural, it must express itself outwardly. The power of persistence is that it transforms your relationship with time. Instead of being discouraged by delay, you begin to see delay as confirmation that change is unfolding. Just as a river slowly carves a canyon through stone, persistence ensures that inner conviction eventually reshapes outer form. What looks immovable is only temporary. Every great achievement, every breakthrough, every transformation in history is a testimony to persistence over circumstance. Those who held fast to their vision in the face of ridicule, failure, or delay eventually saw it realized. Persistence also strengthens faith. Each time you choose to remain in the state of your desire despite contradictory evidence, you reinforce the conviction that imagination creates reality. You prove to yourself that inner vision is more powerful than outer fact. Over time, persistence becomes second nature. You no longer waver between states but rest securely in the one you have chosen. Circumstances may fluctuate, but your inner stability keeps you aligned until the world conforms. To persist is to trust the unseen more than the seen, to value the inner picture over the outer snapshot, and to know that appearances are always the past trying to linger, while the future is already forming within you. Faithful feeling is the secret, because it is the bridge that connects who you are now with who you desire to become. Thoughts may spark imagination, but it is feeling that breathes life into the vision. Without emotion, an idea remains abstract, floating without roots in the subconscious. The subconscious mind responds not to idle words, but to the sensation of reality impressed upon it. When you feel something as real now, even before it appears outwardly, you are collapsing the gap between the present self and the future self. Feeling is the magnetic force that draws the unseen into form. Many people approach manifestation purely through thought, repeating affirmations without emotional involvement. They say the words but continue to feel doubt, lack, or longing. In this state, the affirmation has little power because the subconscious accepts what is felt as truth over what is spoken. If you declare abundance while feeling poor, it is poverty that takes root. If you affirm love while feeling unworthy, it is rejection that repeats. The key is to let the inner world be saturated with the emotion of the fulfilled desire, so that the subconscious cannot distinguish between imagination and reality. When you embody the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you step into the identity of your future self. This does not mean forcing yourself to ignore current facts, but choosing to prioritize the emotional state of the desired reality. For instance, if you want success, ask yourself how you would feel if success were already here. Would you feel secure, confident, relieved, joyful? Cultivate that feeling now. As you dwell in it faithfully, your mind and body begin to harmonize with that state, and your outer actions naturally align with the identity you are assuming. The reason feeling is so powerful is that it imprints directly on the nervous system. The body reacts to imagination as though it were real. Think of a vivid dream that caused your heart to race or your palms to sweat. Nothing real was happening, yet the body responded to the inner experience. In the same way, when you dwell in the feeling of your desire fulfilled, your body and subconscious respond as if it is already true. This alignment sets into motion the conditions that eventually bring the experience into the physical world. Faithful feeling also removes resistance. Longing and wishing create tension because they emphasize lack. But when you enter the state of already having, the struggle dissolves. You no longer chase the desire, you rest in it. From that state of rest, inspired action flows effortlessly. You are no longer acting out of desperation, but out of natural expression. Life begins to reorganize around your conviction because you are broadcasting coherence between your inner state and the reality you have chosen. To practice faithful feeling, imagination becomes your ally. Close your eyes and step into the scene of your fulfilled desire. See it clearly, but more importantly, feel it. Hear the sounds, notice the atmosphere. Let the emotions flood your being. If you want love, imagine the warmth of companionship and feel the comfort it brings. If you want financial freedom, imagine the relief and joy of security and independence. The more vividly you feel it, the more deeply the subconscious accepts it. Repetition strengthens the impression until it becomes natural. This practice requires consistency because feelings are often swayed by appearances. Circumstances may tempt you to return to old states of doubt or fear. Faithful feeling means holding on to the inner sensation of fulfillment, regardless of what the outer world shows. It is choosing to dwell in the conviction of already having, even when evidence has not yet caught up. The outer world eventually bends to match the inner state, but the bridge is always feeling, faithfully sustained and lived within until it becomes the only reality you know. So I leave you with this: stop waiting for your future self to arrive. Start being that self today. When you walk, walk as them. When you speak, speak as them. When you feel, feel as them. The moment you embody your future self in the now, life has no choice but to align with your inner conviction. The future is not coming, it is already here, waiting for you to claim it,